Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Now, here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
And welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. Whether you're tuning in on the radio dial here in Mississippi at WYAD 94.1 FM, we welcome you all back to our program. Also, those tuning in through online affiliates around the world, we welcome you, including our iHeartRadio family. We're glad that you all could join us as well. We're excited to welcome Marc and Lianna Treitler to our program today. They are a father and daughter writing team that have been able to give us two great books. The first book I had a chance to read is called My Dad is an Alcoholic, What About Me? A preteen guide to conquering addictive genes. Now they have a brand new book out this year called Alcohol, Drugs, and You, a young person's guide to avoiding addiction. We're going to talk to Marc and Lianna about what it's been like for them to share these important messages, but also what it's been like for them to work together to be able to show people what's possible for them when it comes to overcoming addiction as well. Marc, Lianna, hello to you and welcome to the program.
Thanks, Cyrus. Happy to be on, and happy Lianna could join us this time.
Yeah, hi.
Exactly. Hey, I'm so glad you could join us as well, Lianna. Lianna, I'm going to start with you because, first of all, ladies first, and I'm a Southerner, so we definitely want to be able to get your input on this. I had a chance to speak with your dad last year about My Dad is an Alcoholic, What About Me? What has it been like for you, Lianna, to be able to not only to have these conversations with the book, but also to see the way that people are responding to the book so far?
Honestly, throughout the whole writing process and now getting out there, it's been really inspiring, just all the support we've gotten, seeing all the people we get to help and all the kids, preteens, and teenagers like myself that are really benefiting from the book and what we put so much time into writing and developing.
Yeah. Marc, could you have imagined as you were going through the addiction and then being able to have these conversations with the books that your personal story would be so inspiring for other people?
No, when you're going through an addiction, you're sort of in your own head. Any type of addiction, you don't realize that other people in the world are going through the same thing. But what I've realized, and I think Lianna's realized it too, and so is our whole family, is that, the 95% of families that we talk to, there's somebody in their immediate or extended family that has a problem currently or past problem with drugs or alcohol. So actually being out there as a vocal resource, for both Lianna and I, we've had dozens and dozens of people come to us for advice and help, strangers and very, very close friends or coworkers.
Yeah. Lianna, I want to read something from the book, My Dad is an Alcoholic, What About Me? It's found on page 58, and then we're going to talk a little bit about it. This is what the two of you write in the chapter, My Feelings. It's important that you feel a sense of power and confidence with the knowledge you are gaining from this book. You can prevent the disease from ruining your life. Things are not hopeless, even if your dad, grandfather, and great-grandfather have all been alcoholics. Things are not hopeless, even if all of your sisters and brothers have problems with alcohol or other substances. With the knowledge you have now, you can break the cycle. Lianna, is that one of the big messages that you want young people in particular to get, that they can break the cycle no matter how many generations it's gone through in their lives?
Yes, absolutely. When I first started writing this book and my dad started telling me about himself and his addiction and all of his relatives that also suffer from addiction, I did feel really powerless. And then after going through this process and writing this book, I felt so empowered, like I could stop this cycle of addiction in my family and I could make my own decision to not activate the gene for addiction in my own life. So I feel like that is one of the most important take-home messages, is that you have the power to stop this cycle for yourself and for your future and your family.
Yeah. Marc, to you, with that same point, what has it been like for you to take the power back as well? Because I think the other big thing, I asked Lianna about, her own power, but you as someone who has been able to find freedom from an addiction, how does that feel for you to be able to reclaim your own power?
It's a dramatic change. The people that have had addictions listening to this will know what I'm talking about, and even those who haven't can understand. The disease is in control. You're not really, once you become an alcoholic or a drug addict, getting that drug or getting that drink is really the focus of your life, and that is in control. So, it's changing to a point where you're sober, you're no longer craving, and the drug or alcohol are not in control of you, and you're in fact, sort of in control of it, spreading the message. It couldn't be more of a dramatic change.
Yeah, for sure. Lianna, one of the things that you actually share in the book, My Dad is an Alcoholic, What About Me, in the Thoughts from Lianna, found on pages 99 going into page 100, is this, and I think it kind of sets the stage for the new book, Alcohol, Drugs, and You. You write this: you, the kid reading this book, should never have a problem fitting in. You should always be yourself and never change the way you are just to fit in with anyone, especially right now. You don't need to fit in with your addicted parents, because what they're doing is wrong. If you feel left out, excluded, or different, just talk about it with a family member. Don't feel like you're being forced into activating your disease. You know you're not. But also don't feel pressure to share your life with people who are doing something you don't want to and shouldn't do. Make your own decisions. That's a lot to be able to take in as a young person, but how did that help you, Lianna, to realize that you did not have to be an enabler when it came to your parents' disease?
Yeah, so like you said, I realized through writing this I didn't have to be an enabler of the disease, and especially as a young kid writing this book, I was like 11 and 12 writing this book. It's so easy to feel like you have to follow whatever your parents are doing or whatever anyone else is doing. So it's definitely important to realize that you're not forced into this cycle of addiction. You can make the decision for yourself. And the line you read, but also don't feel pressured to share your life with people who are doing something you know you don't want to do. That just comes with knowing what's best for yourself, and especially knowing that you have the gene for addiction, knowing that you shouldn't even activate the gene, and no matter what anyone else is doing, you make the decision for yourself.
For sure. Marc, for you, and looking at the notes from Lianna for this book, and then she just referenced, so wise at the time, for her age. What was it like for you, for her to be able to share that with other young people, to let them know that they did not have to contribute to what their parents were doing?
I think she's wise for her age, and like she said, she wrote a lot of that when she was 11 and 12 and 13 years old, and she wrote it herself. What you just read is, that's pretty good writing for a 40-year-old, and quite insightful. And she wrote it, and those were her true feelings. So we're definitely blessed that she has the ability to stand up and tell her peers, or to stand in front of a middle school class and explain why they don't have to succumb to peer pressure. And it's definitely a blessing. And again, like I said, now that we're out there publicly, I can't tell you how often people come to me directly for advice. It's everywhere with adults and children.
Right, for sure. And I think we're going to definitely talk more about that. I want to say, for those who are just tuning in, either on the radio side or online, you're listening to Conversations Live. We're already having a great conversation today with Marc Treitler and his daughter, Lianna Treitler. They are the co-authors of the books, My Dad is an Alcoholic, What About Me, and Alcohol, Drugs, and You. Lianna, how does it feel, to not even be out of your teen years and to have two published books for the world to be able to read?
Honestly, again, I used this word inspiring before. It just feels so great that I've been able to use my own personal experience and my voice and just share that with other people and help other people. And especially at my age, a lot of kids I know feel like they don't have a voice, or that their voice isn't important as being a teenager. So, yeah, I just feel like I'm really blessed that I've been able to help other people, especially given my age.
Right, for sure. And Marc, for you, as well, to have two books out, to already have great conversations taking place about them around an important topic, how does that feel about something you've been able to achieve?
Well, what actually gives me the most pride is when there's families that write us letters or emails or tell us in person that this opened up the topic at their dinner table. Help them help a daughter understand why her dad was an alcoholic and it wasn't her fault, and why her dad left her mom. I know one family in particular wrote us a 6 or 7 page handwritten letter that really opened up the daughter and the mother's understanding about the disease and alcoholism, and inspired them not to follow in those footsteps. So we're doing this for charity. We're doing this to help families, and I really believe it's a message that children with or without addiction in their genes really need to hear to give them a fighting chance. Because every time you turn in the news, no matter what network you're on, you see opiate epidemic, killing more people than guns now, more people than car crashes. Marijuana is being legalized across the country. DUIs are everywhere. So it's it's a topic that has to be discussed, just like the birds and the bees were in the 50s. This is the important topic to discuss with your kids.
Yeah. Marc, I'm going to go back to Lianna, but before I do that, I do feel as though I will be doing our audience a disservice if we don't explain the characters, the peanut and the potato. You and I discussed it the last time you were on with us, but would you mind, for those who may have missed our first conversation, to talk about the two characters?
Sure, it's a little bit unique, and my son and my wife did the drawings, so you'll see drawings throughout the book. They're quite talented as well. We tried to make this book relatable to middle school kids and even a little bit younger, so we wanted to put some characters in it. And what we came up with was the potato that's getting no respect versus the peanut. Now, we use the potato as the analogy for the allergy to alcohol, and we all know potatoes make vodka. So in the book, the potato represents vodka. So his plight throughout the book is with his buddy that's represents the peanut allergy is, how come everybody talks about the peanut allergy? How come every babysitter and every soccer coach and every flight attendant and every parent of the child in the classroom knows which kids are allergic to peanuts? Cyrus, I forget if you have kids or not, but you know kids, if not your own, everybody knows who's allergic to peanuts. Right. It's a topic at the dinner table. It's a topic for snacks, for soccer games. But nobody talks about the poor kid that has an allergy to alcohol or drugs in his genes. So that's the poor potato throughout the book. He gets no respect. Nobody talks about him, and we're trying to change that with this book and a little bit of that analogy that's easier for kids to digest.
Yeah. Lianna, have you found that also has made it easier to have these conversations, having these two characters throughout the two books there to kind of represent what's being talked about?
Yeah, definitely. I think it was a really ingenious idea coming up with this symbol for an allergy to alcohol and drugs, just because, like my dad said, it's so easy to talk about a peanut allergy or other similar allergies. And now I can just say, I'm allergic to the potato, I'm allergic to drugs and alcohol. And it's definitely an easy segue into talking about the cycle of addiction, and a really easy way for people to help understand that this is just like any other allergy, and I have to be just as cautious as someone who's allergic to peanuts or something else.
For sure. Lianna, to stay with you for a moment, I want to talk about pressure because, you're in a unique position where you're able to provide a positive influence for others because of the work that you're doing, not only in your family, but also, of course, as an author and a speaker as you are. How does it feel to know that you're showing people an alternative to some of the negative peer pressure that's out there? How does that feel to know that you're in that position to show them they don't have to choose a negative path, they can choose a more positive path?
It feels great just knowing, like you said, I'm kind of helping and being able to model in my own life that people can choose more positive paths, the alternative to trying drugs and alcohol. At first, to be honest, it was a little bit nerve-wracking having a lot of the pressure of trying to be a voice and someone that a whole bunch of kids who also have addiction in their genes can look up to. I felt a little bit of pressure on my own life, just having to be cautious all the time of drugs and alcohol, especially as I'm getting older. But as I've grown older and this book has kind of further developed in the process, I've just become very proud that I have this role, and just I'm able to tell people like my peers at school or people like my dad said that write letters to us or email our organization. It's so much easier just to take the path that's not drugs and alcohol, and I'm doing that through my own life as well.
Marc, has it been an easy thing for you even to see yourself as an example? Because there's some people who will say, well, this is something that's happened in my family. I don't have a choice. This is just who I am. But you're showing that you can choose another path. Has that been an easy thing for you to accept, that you're a model for people as to what they can achieve?
Fortunately for me, it was extremely easy because I struggled with the disease for 15, 20 years, and the last 5, 10 years, I actually wanted to quit, every morning, but I couldn't. When I finally went to rehab and I started learning about the genetic links and the fact that it's a disease, and once it takes hold, you really have no chance. It's not like you're lacking willpower or strength. It was really easy for me. It was actually a relief a lot of my guilt and shame was just immediately extinguished because it's looked at as somebody with some like diabetes. You can't really once it starts, you can't really get rid of it. So I thought it was a big relief understanding it, and my thoughts immediately went to, wow, I wish my parents would have told me some of these things 20 years ago, and then hence that turned into a conversation with Lianna and my son, and then it turned into a book because that message is needed out there.
Yeah. I want to read something that you wrote in the book under the 12 steps in alcohol, drugs, and you, Mark, and I think that's a great point because I think, again, we all have our thing. I know for myself, I used to be a nervous eater, so when I get nervous, that's what I would tend to eat, and I had to find ways, okay, Cyrus, you need to find something else to do other than eat. And this is what you wrote in the book. During my years of active alcoholism, I had only one coping skill. Whether I was stressed, sick, mad, scared, anxious, alone, or even excited, I drank. Developing healthy coping skills to deal with these emotions is what sobriety is really about. When I first read the promises, and the promises are actually in the book before this part that you wrote, Mark, I thought they were crazy and impossible to attain, but they have all come true for me, as they have for millions of addicts. Talk to us about that, because I think we all, again, have our ways that we cope with things, whether it's a loss or, disappointment. Why has it been so important for you to share with people, Mark, that there are other things that they can do rather than turning to something like the addiction?
Well, having an addiction in your teenage and early adult years, and let's say early part of your marriage, it really does become your one and only coping skill. Certainly, when I was mad, angry, stressed, had anxiety, it was the only way I thought I could get relief. And then when you look back at it, even excitement and happiness. If your sports team won the Super Bowl, or you got a big raise, or you got into a certain school, you celebrated by drinking. So when you take away the drinking, then the question is, all right, let's say you get into a normal argument with your daughter or your wife or your boss or a coworker, or there's some stress. Then what do you do? So if you're not in a program like AA, or if you don't have some counseling or other things set up, then you're going to struggle as an adult. I remember, Cyrus, one time it was within the first month after I got released, and I had a little argument with Lianna. I don't know, it was something silly about a television show or something, and then I remember walking upstairs crying. Because I didn't, the normal coping technique would have just ran away and had a couple of beers, but I didn't have that, and then my body reacted in a way that I wasn't used to. So, the coping skills and the emotions, when you mask them under a bottle or a drug, it's they come back up right away, and it's something that these rehabs and treatment programs, they focus on as much as not drinking.
Right, for sure. Lianna, there's an interesting thought from you in this book, and after chapter 12, which is how will I fit in? And this is in Alcohol, Drugs, and You, a young person's guide to avoiding addiction. And it's an interesting point that's brought up in this chapter, and I want to read a bit of what the chapter says. Then, Lianna, I want to share a bit of your thoughts. The chapter says this: sometimes your friends don't need to pressure you by bugging you or trying to push alcohol into your hands. Sometimes you pressure yourself because you want to fit in. I think there are so many people that can relate to that, whether they will admit it or not. And it's such a sad thing for people not to love themselves for who they are. There's a great picture there with the potato dressed up, trying to look cool, saying, am I cool now? And the peanut saying, dude, just be yourself. Lianna, you wrote this in your thoughts, and this is, I think it's appropriate now because you are, as a teenager, you say this: even in the future, when you're in high school or college, you don't have to feel peer pressure to do drugs along with your friends. Fitting in doesn't mean changing who you are. It means that people like you for you. It's so important to have friends who love you, love who you are, and don't want to change your personality. I feel the same way about my friends. I don't try to change who they are. I try to love them for who they are. Is that an important point that you want young people especially to know, Lianna, the importance of loving themselves for who they are?
Yes, 100%. Regardless if we're talking about alcohol and drugs, it's so important, especially as people are finding themselves and growing and becoming who they are in high school. It's so important to remember that it's the greatest thing you can do for yourself is surround yourself with people who love and care about you. And that especially applies to what we wrote about in this book, because such a big part of maybe the high school culture around the country and around the world is partying and drinking, and it's so important to stick to your values and make sure you have people in your life that won't pressure you to try to do those alcohol and drugs to fit in, and really respect the fact that you made the decision for yourself not to go into alcohol and drugs as well.
For sure. Marc, I had asked you earlier about being an example for other people. I mean, what was your hope with this second book, Alcohol, Drugs, and You, in addressing young people? Are you hoping that it will kind of start them early enough where they're kind of able to not have to go down the road that you had to go down?
Yeah, well, the difference between the first and the second book, the first book was really, written for children and families that know what's in their genes. But what we found out promoting it and learning more about, families across the country is that, every family needs to understand this. For one, they might have it in their genes and they don't know it. And two, there's, just as many kids dabbling in drugs and alcohol with or without addiction in their genes. So we wanted to make it more inclusive. The message about having it in your genes is still in there, but there's things that, every kid needs to know, before it's too late, before they're in high school and get hooked on drugs or alcohol or crash in a DUI. That was the focus of the second book. It's all families need to have this as a discussion point, and we wanted to expand our reach.
Yeah. Lianna, one more question I have for you. On the back of the new book, Alcohol, Drugs, and You, I thought this was interesting, what was written there. It says, so with alcohol and drugs all around us, how can we avoid them? It could very easily, Lianna, as you're talking to young people, be able to substitute other things there, right, when it comes to peer pressure and things. Is that what you hope people also realize, that some of these same principles apply to other things that they might be tempted with as young people?
Yes, absolutely. And that's part of one of the main reasons we developed this new book, was to make it able to touch more of a general audience, not just those who have alcohol and drug addiction embedded in their genes, but for all kids that are coming of age facing things that might not be best for them. And like you said, how can we avoid them? That can be applied to so many other things other than alcohol and drugs, and that's definitely one of the main takeaways I'd like people to have reading this book.
Yeah. Well, the two of you have done a great job once again. I'm so glad, Lianna, we had a chance to have you with the conversation with us this time. Marc, it was great having you with us last year, but it was great to be able to have your co-author, your daughter, with us.
I told you she's a star.
Well, look,
nobody wants to talk to me.
Marc, I have to say, it sounds like the whole family is. I mean, the two of you wrote it. You have the rest of your family illustrating it. I mean, you all together, I think, are an unbeatable team. So congratulations to the Treitlers overall. Again, joining us in this conversation, that was Marc Treitler and his daughter, Lianna Treitler. The books that are available are My Dad is an Alcoholic, What About Me?, A Preteen Guide to Conquering Addictive Genes. And then we also have the book that's available, Alcohol, Drugs, and You, A Young Person's Guide to Avoiding Addiction. Make sure you guys get both books. You can also stay connected with the authors by going to www.potatoallergy.com. Again, it's www.potatoallergy.com. So make sure you all take advantage of that. Marc, Lianna, congratulations to the two of you again, and thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Cyrus. Appreciate being on.
The pleasure's definitely all mine. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying, as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Make sure you take out time to enjoy some good music as well as a great book. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live today. You all make it a great one.